Hey guys, it's Daniel here with a new review for a Marvel thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe again. And this one is going to be something a bit unusual for Marvel. I'm going to be talking about the new Disney Plus TV show, What If? Now you may be wondering, why am I so confused? Well, I'll get to that later, but let me just tell you, I really don't know what to think about this show. So the basic premise of What If is that after the events of Loki, or what was set up in Loki, there has been a little bit of a multi-dimensional split between realities, like different realities happen this way and different realities happen that way, and this show basically delves into what would happen if, like, all these different characters were doing different scenarios. What if Peggy Carter became Captain America? What if T'Challa became Star-Lord? What if all the Avengers die? What if the zombies happen? What if Ultron won the battle in New York? What would happen if all this happened? And it's all being improvised and looked over by the mythical creature himself, the Watcher. Now, I've been looking forward to What If for a long time. I mean, just the concept alone has you excited. I mean, different characters and different scenarios in, like, different realities that could be, like, jangled in with each other. It just sounds like the kind of thing that you would want to see. It's just so exciting to see. But taking this kind of idea is very unusual. So great ideas would have to be taken to make sure this show works. Let me think of what could happen. I know, how about we put a little more focus on comedy than actual character development? And hey, why don't we shorten the length a bit so that it doesn't actually do any proper real delve into what the characters are feeling. They just go straight to the action and all. And hey, let's make it one of the greatest things to happen in our show in a long time. Let's make it CGI animated with characters that look like that they have big lips instead of putting more development into their faces. I smell cheese! All I could say about the show is, instead of what if, I'd ask the question, what the hell was that? I mean, as I sit there and just explain my opinions right now, I honestly have no idea what I'm supposed to think of this show. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's good either. I'm just in the middle. Granted, I know you guys could feel like that it's like one of the greatest shows ever made, and all like, yeah, very good, very good. But really, when you sit down, you notice that while it can be entertaining, it could also be a very silly and dumb show. But let's get into what I do like. First of all, the Watcher. He is so awesome. There's something very mysterious about him because he shows up now and again throughout the entire show. Like in the opening theme, he talks about the different realities, but makes a few appearances now and again. And he does later contribute to the main story somehow, which I will not say. But his character makes for the most interesting, complex character, and that's really saying a lot because all these characters are in different scenarios, and this is the character that we met for the first time. But even with the first time appearance, he's even more interesting than a lot of the main characters that we already knew. Although, come to think of it, he is kind of like the host of the show, so it makes sense. And Jeffrey Wright friggin' killed it as the Watcher. Like, honestly, whenever he talks, he feels so wise. Good job, Jeffrey. And speaking of Jeffrey, the voice acting is spectacular. I mean, many actors from the other MCU shows and movies return to voice their characters. Like, I absolutely loved hearing Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa again before he sadly passed away. I do miss you a bit, buddy. I do miss you. Wakanda forever. It's so good to see him back at it again after hearing the poor news. But what I really appreciate about the voice acting is that a lot of the actors who played these characters have been replaced. And I can tell you that the actors who replaced them seem like that they fit really well into the roles and the actors who played them before, because it's really hard to notice that these are different voices. Lake Bell replaces Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, and she sounds exactly like Scarlett Johansson. And the guy who played Tony Stark captured all the mannerisms that Robert Downey Jr. gave. Good job, man. And I do have to say that there are really awesome creative scenes sprinkled out, like some fantastic visuals, one or two good jokes, and the action scenes can be very creative throughout the show. And the characters just like messing around. It's really what the advantage you can do with animation nowadays. But I will say this. 3 things that really stood out about the show to me is the 4th episode, the 8th episode, and the final episode. Wow, those episodes are fantastic. They really what the show could have become if they put a bit more time to them. Although that does kind of lead into some issues I have, which we'll get to later. But I will say the different realities that they come up with this makes for some very awesome, hilarious, but also dramatic moments. Especially the 4th episode with Doctor Strange. I will not say what happens in this episode because it's major spoilers. But my God, that episode, it broke my heart, man. It's all my heart for you, Stephen Strange. I hope this thing doesn't really make you too sad, because the dilemma that Doctor Strange faces in that episode is fantastic. Plus, Benedict Cumberbatch was still fantastic voicing the character, giving a lot of depth to him in this episode. Great job, Benedict. Now, this aspect is a little bit mixed, because it kind of deals with both the bad and the good aspect. And that was, of course, dealing with the fact that this show is animated. So the question is, what do I think of the animation? Well, it comes off as very long and very fast and energetic, just like a normal person would be in the show. It does, however, go into a bit more, delve into, the looks of the characters, because some of the men in the show just look a bit wrong. There's just something very off-putting about them, especially considering how their lips seem to be a bit more bigger than their eyes for some reason. I mean, really in real life, the lips are just at the same level as the eyes, but I don't know, something about the lip movements of the men in the show just look a bit odd. I mean, the women looked alright, they were fantastic, but they just didn't. But they did come up with some creative things to happen with the animation, but overall the animation, it's okay. Although I do wish it could have been better if they did 2D animation instead of 3D animation. But unfortunately, guys, this show is not without its faults. Major faults. My first biggest issue with the show is its wasted potential. My God, was it poorly handled? I mean, this is a show that you could do anything at all, but the stuff you do, they're not giving the best potential that they could have had. What? How the hell can you be this goddamn lazy? I mean, these many of these changes are pretty cool. They come off as very creative and a lot more depth. But it would have been more impactful had they spent a bit more time with these things. And that's also adding to the wasted potential, because the pacing of the show, it's way too rushed. I'm literally it's just going zoom, 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 episode, development, change. Okay, this episode is going on. Yeah. Oh no, we're moving to the next episode. Okay, that's done. Nice. Seriously? I mean, could you at least taken some time to develop these characters and introduce them to new shows? I mean, granted, they could be due to the fact that we knew what these scenes were before the show, but my God, could you at least show a bit of backstory before you started changing these elements? Because it would have meant a bit more build-up, but it just kind of ruins the flow of the scene. There's many issues considering the pacing and the wasted potential. First of all, the show has a habit of making the characters speak so much, because the characters in the show, for some reason, especially dealing with an MCU show, they seem to have a pretty bad case of verbal diarrhea, because characters are just talking without any room to breathe. It's just constantly making the characters spit out some words and force lines and making... I also feel like that the characters are kind of speaking what we can already see. Like, okay, I can't believe I'm about to say this in like a Marvel Cinematic Universe project, but show, don't tell. I mean, I never thought in a long time the characters would actually explain what the audience could see. I mean, do they believe that the audience are complete idiots? Seriously? Now, some of you can have the argument, well, it's animated. That's a rubbish explanation for these very forced lines that the audience can figure out if the show has the characters just looking with no dialogue and make the characters understand their actions. But no, it just has characters like speaking now and again without any like chance to rush through their voices. And whenever it tries to get to the action scenes, the characters just like talking much like, ooh, I'm doing this, doing this. It's really just a bunch of silliness on screen. And speaking of that, do you know why the show is so lack of wasted potential and room to breathe? Because I felt like that the show focused way too much on comedy than actually developing characters, because it would constantly have a mirage of childish jokes and forced quips that bring the story to a halt. Now, of course, comedy is like an inference for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They always have their chances where they're spitting out long line, quippy, long banters now and again to try to make the audience more satisfied and feel more joyful when they see these characters on screen. But it was played secondly. It plays like second element or third element compared to the main story, which is the action-adventure element. They always take center stage whenever they're doing these kind of movies. In What If, I feel like that the comedy takes more stage, that the action-adventure development elements place second. Because whenever, like, these characters just, like, talking about, like, their past lives or, like, what they feel like they can't do, and when they're talking about sad stories now and again, it comes to a really forced and very squeaky fork in the road halt so that a character can make a joke or a quip, especially when it came to these like very childish kind of humor that just made me facepalm like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, I know this thing is animated and all, but still the MCU! Can you not like appeal to more teenage audience? I mean, now, some again, they can sometimes appeal to teenage audiences, but at the same time, they just keep forcing their way away to detract from the main story to focus on these very annoying quips said by the characters. And speaking of that, some of the characters in the show, not all of them, but some of them can get like on your nerves now and again because they do not act like the same characters they did in the show. Now I get that's the point because, you know, they're different realities and all, but at the same time I feel like sometimes they kind of contradict now and again because in some episodes, while these characters are in a different situation, their personality still stays the same. When Peggy Carter became Captain America, or Captain Carter I should say, she still stays the strong, determined woman fighting for her country but also making time for loved ones. When T'Challa becomes Star-Lord, he's still his very kingly self but also quippy banter now and again. Tony Stark may have been saved by Killmonger, but he's still like the very chatty, cocky, billionaire playboy that he always is. A lot of the characters can be in different scenarios, but they can also stay the same personality. But whenever I see a character that is in a different scenario and changes their personality, it just kind of rubs you the wrong way from now and again. Like, my god. One huge example? Korath the Pursuer from the second episode, where we see the different Guardians now replaced by different roles, and then T'Challa becomes Star-Lord. But Korath in that episode, what the hell did you do to him?
Star-Lord, I'm a huge fan of your work.
This is literally him throughout the entire episode, constantly forcing his fanboyness over Star-Lord because he's not Peter Quill, he's instead T'Challa. And my god, he never shuts the hell up. Like, character. He's like constantly like bragging onto you. He's like a paparazzi in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, constantly hitting on their ego, going, "Hey, I like you. Do you want to do this? You want to do this?" And when you blow up and say, "Shut the hell up, man! Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to you, Korra the Pursuer?" I mean, besides the fact that I was rooting for Star-Lord and not you to get the orb and destroy Ronan and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, but still, why? And speaking of that one episode, another character change that I noticed that was really distracting: Thanos in that episode. Now, it can be funny. Don't get me wrong, it can be funny that he's now chilled out and that he's no longer trying to wipe out half the universe, he instead has been stopped, and he's now cheering out like, I was just like being like, oh, I decided to do this. But, it was a mistake, a big mistake. I mean, it doesn't have a benefit. It can be funny now and again, but at the same time, oh my god, not Thanos. If there's one character that you can't do a personality change to in the show, it's Thanos. I'm not particularly fond of Thanos being chilled out about his defeat. If they wanted to, keep his character the same, like some of the other characters are still the same, even though they're different scenarios, even though Thanos is a different scenario, you could have had him give up his chance, but then isolate himself on a planet. Then it would make sense for him to, be ashamed of himself. But here, he's just like, oh my god, I've lost so much. But it's a really big mistake. Okay, I'm just gonna be like, yeah. What the frick? And there's also some inconsistencies throughout the show, especially dealing with one of the final episodes and one of the characters. I mean, look at the poster. You see the poster? There are two characters from that poster that one of them does not show up in the final episode, even though he's on the poster, and is instead replaced by a character who is not on that poster, and one of the characters do not have an episode at all, and all of a sudden they are treated like a valuable member. I won't say who those characters are, but if you look at the poster and then look at the show, you'll know what I'm referring to. Just let me recall. One of the characters who I felt like should have been in the final episode was replaced by a character, and one character does not have a centered episode and is suddenly treated like a valuable member of the team in the final episode. Watch the show for yourself and try to guess who those characters are. Another thing that adds to the poor pacing is that all of a sudden, whenever they're trying to defeat a main threat, it's suddenly cut short, and then that character, oh my god, that threat is dead, even though he's such a strong character and should be defeated. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, seriously, watch about this scene. Oh boy, Thanos. Oh boy, Ultron. Oh my god, we're gonna see a very fantastic fight between that. What? You just slit Thanos in half? Jesus Christ, what a cop-out! And really, most of my issues up to this point are connected with the writing, because it is without doubt some of the weakest writing in the MCU. Because, I mean, seriously, this is a show about our favourite Marvel characters in different scenarios. You could do so much with it, so why jump off the imagination train with these imaginary ideas and not give them the full recognition that they deserve? How lazy can you be? But really, all my problems is dealt with one major upgrade that they should have done yet didn't do. These episodes are way too short! Seriously! I mean, they're about 30 minutes long at most, 26 minutes long if you don't include the credits. And my god, they rush so many things that they could have done with such imagination if they put time and effort into it, but they just rush it to the side. I mean, you see these ideas, they're coming to the foreground, and oh my god, it's like the idea that they could have. I mean, but then it's suddenly cut short, and then the episode ends. I mean, you could have at least made these episodes an hour long each, and then I would have been more invested. I would have, if these episodes were longer, then I would have loved the show a lot more. But instead, they just cut it short and start wasting ideas that they could have had. I mean, especially the final two episodes. Wow, that is two of the best episodes, and yet they are also the most insultingly good episodes. I mean, what the hell are these ideas doing in something that's very rushed and poorly executed? It can't mix. I mean, honestly, if this is what they're going to do, then really this show shouldn't really have existed at all. If you're going to make a show about what if, then make a show about what if. Give me more time to relate yourself in the what if idea. But you can't just like Scrooge like, oh, this idea happens and this thing happens without any like explanation, and then it's happened. You can't have your cake and eat it too. The final 2 episodes have the best ideas ever, like the biggest threats to the MCU, and yet you don't seem to give them much attention to it because you just feel like you're not very competent with what the creators are doing. I mean, did you really think of an idea of maybe, oh, I don't know, making like movies about them? I mean, did you really do that? Did you? Did you? Did you? This is stupid! 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 At the end of the day, guys, when it comes down to it, I really have no idea what I just watched. Sorry, I just get a little peeved when these ideas are not given to the forefront. Frick you, Marvel Studios. Seriously, frick you. Overall, guys, did I have fun with the show? Yes, in some points. Was I insultingly entertained by the show? Absolutely. But did I also feel like the show was very stupid and underwhelming? Yeah, for half of the time, because honestly, as much problems I had, I still found some very entertaining, funny and cool parts that the show had potential be. But because of all the poor pacing and not giving it enough time to develop its characters, I feel like it just really takes the grade down and makes me question whether or not I like the show or if I was disappointed by the show. I really don't know which one to pick. So, at the end of the day, this show gets a 3 out of 5, which is saying that the show is decent. And I know a lot of people are gonna feel like, oh, but this show is like one of the greatest things. How? I mean, it's okay, but it's not masterfully creative. I mean, if the episodes were longer and given more time to stretch it out into a long time, then maybe the show could have worked and I would have found it as good as everyone else does. But honestly, I just think the show is overrated. Because really, when it comes to the down, I feel like most of What If is a very, very silly show. But I don't hate it. Will this precede future MCU? Maybe, I don't know, but again, as a show and an idea, it's mildly entertaining, but as a executional, it does come off as a bit of a disappointment. And for no particular reason, I shall now duck. So anyway, what do you think of What If? Are many of you that still love the show, no matter what I say, and ignoring the fact that this is kind of becoming a ramble, but did you feel like the same way about me and you felt like it didn't do the potential that it needed? And let me ask you, what character change to a character in the show did you love the most? Let me know in the comment section below. To be honest, I hope they can't remake these episodes and make them long movies, because again, I saw potential. This could have been good. So hopefully the second season turns out to be a lot better and focus more time. I wonder if these episodes are going to focus on different character changes, or are they going to be sequels to each episode in order? I mean, oh, the 7th episode, it wasn't that good. I mean, it was funny from time to time, but it just didn't turn out that good. And it's such a shame because this is an MCU thing. I still love the MCU. I cannot wait to review more of the MCU and see what fast food forward. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness just came out, so I hope to see that soon. And Moon Knight's finished up, so I haven't seen that. And again, I'm sorry I haven't been doing much, but I'm getting close to my GCSEs, and it's just so hard, so I hope to, get some revision done, but also try to get some videos done. Anyway, I guess all this energy and rampage and energy has seemed to have drained the energy out of me, so I'm just going to finish off this episode, and then I'm going to relax now. So anyway, I'm Daniel reviewing movies, TV shows, doing videos. I mean, let's just hope nothing else unexpected happens. Till then, peace out, man.